All right, people. Review of the week time. So, lot to get into, lot to discuss, lot to talk about. There really is only one thing to discuss, isn't there? And that's going to be the fallout from Ben Eubank. But before we talk about that, two things. One, have a look there on screen. If you could please consider hitting the like, hitting the subscribe, and hitting the notification bell. We're already about 4 or 5 subs off 27,600. So let's push on. I'd love it if we could get to 28k by the end of the month. We've got 2 weeks to get. I've done it in less time than that. We can do it. Believe me. I'd love to get 28k by the end of the month. Let's talk about Ben Eubank. Let's talk about the boxing news. Let's preview upcoming card next weekend. But before we do any of that, let's talk about the undercard. Because I have to say, the undercard for Ben Eubank 1 was, for me, I would say, probably a little bit better. Right? It was probably a little bit better than the one we had last night. On paper, anyway. All the fights went long. Some of them were a bit more entertaining than others on the very, very first show. But this undercard, it didn't look as strong on paper. But for me, every fight in the undercard delivered. I genuinely believe that every fight on this undercard delivered. Sam Gilly versus Ishmael Davis. You know, Ishmael Davis obviously won this fight. Now, Ishmael Davis has been on, I'm going to say, a bad run, because he really has, in a sense of he's lost his last 3 fights. Unless there's a fight somewhere in between that I missed, which I don't think there is. No, there was actually a fight in between. He had a little run out a couple of weeks ago in Leeds at some banquet place. So, okay, so he didn't lose his last 3 in a row, but essentially, minus the 6 rounders, just after, he's lost his last 3 in a row. Now, Ishmael, that's actually incredible activity, to be honest with you. So he's fought in September, October, November. That's crazy for a British level fighter to do that. You don't really see that nowadays. But he's had some bad run of form. He took a fight against Josh Kelly on short notice. Had he had the full camp, I think he would have beaten Josh Kelly, to be honest with you. Slow starter, Ishmael Davis is, and that's one of his problems. And he did start slow in this fight. He did. I think he made this fight a lot harder than it needed to be, because I personally thought that he did win the fight. It was close, him and Sam Gilly, there's no doubt about that. There was people online who were saying that they felt Sam Gilly won the fight, and whilst I might not necessarily agree with them, I can conceivably see how you would have scored it to Sam Gilly. Certainly, he took a lot of the early rounds, because again, I think Ishmael Davis, they need to sort that out. He's starting too slow in these fights, and I think one of the reasons, obviously against Sergey Bohachuk, look, massive, this is a domestic level fighter, a very good domestic level fighter, but Bohachuk's world level operator. That obviously didn't matter how much time he had for that fight, it was never going to happen. But against Kevin Jago, started slow, came back into it, but not enough, and that was in Belfast. Against Kelly, similar. Did this again against Gilly, but he was able to come back into it later on. And I personally think the 12th round, he was a bit unlucky not to have a knockdown scored against Sammy. It was either the 12th or the 11th, or it was one or the other, where he appeared to land, it was like an uppercut or a grazing right. Now, Gilly his footing did go on the canvas, because it was clearly a bit damp, maybe from the water from between rounds, but a punch went in as well. So I think Gilly was very lucky not to have a knockdown called against him in that round. And I think the commentators were saying that they gave the 11th round to Sam Gilly, which it became a 10-9 round to Gilly, where it should have actually probably really been a 10-8 round to Ishmael Davis. So Davis, to a decision again. You were thinking they're going to give it to him this time, surely. And they did. Sam Gilly, nothing to be ashamed of. Good performance. He will definitely come again. The emotion of Ishmael Davis after the fight, you saw his partner crying, you saw his kids crying. That British and Commonwealth title means a lot. Look, Ishmael Davis, I like the guy. I don't think he'll ever be a world champion. So for him, that moment in Tottenham, winning those titles there on that stage, that's got to feel like winning a world title. So credit to him. It was a great fight. Richard Riakporhe, Tommy Welsh. I got really what I expected in that fight. Richard Riakporhe 236, and he looks solid. He looks very solid at that weight. God knows how he ever made cruiserweight, because, again, there doesn't seem to be any fat on him. So how in God's name he took that weight off to get cruiser, I will never know. Looked powerful, dropped Tommy Welsh in the second round with a big right hand, followed up and took him out again, dropped him again. The writing was on the wall, and eventually dropped him with one shot at the end of the round, and that was it. Not much to say about it. Riakporhe, he's mentioned the names of Okoli and people like that. Listen, I'd like to see that fight. It was meant to happen on the Joe Joyce Dylan White show, which ended up being the Joe Joyce Hrgovic show. So, and Riakporhe wasn't the one who stopped that fight happening. It was Okoli who pulled out. So I'd like to see that fight happen. I would. Then we had Adam Azim versus Kurt Scooby. Great performance by Adam Azim. Probably one of the quickest guys in boxing. pound for pound. Speed is phenomenal. Scooby did well at times, but you could see the gulf in class. And yeah, for me, by the end of the 12th round, the writing was on the wall. He was beaten up, he was battered, and Adam Azim moves on. They had very good, respect for one another at the end. There's not a great deal to say about it. Boxer have a good find there with Adam Azim. Put him on one of the BBC shows because people will be interested. He has that kind of Amir Khan-esque style to him. Hopefully he doesn't have the chin of Amir Khan, but he has the speed, he's the flashiness. So yeah, I think he's a good one to watch, Adam Azim. Echo Usman, Jack Catley fight of the night. I never thought I'd be saying that about Jack Catley fight, but here we are. Miracles do happen. Jack Catley does have an entertaining fight, but he was very naughty in there. Extremely naughty. So Jack Catley early on was outboxing Echo Usman, as you would imagine, a bit more aggressive than we're used to seeing him. You would think the hookup with Bozy Ennis has helped him with that. But Echo Usman is a fighter who you really have to pin down. He was dropped in the 4th round. His nose was bashed up, his face was bashed up, and you were thinking, all right, the writing's on the wall. But he came back in it. I think it was around 7. He landed a right hand on Jack Catley, opened up a cut. He was very lucky because it looked bad and it was bleeding profusely, but it was bleeding down his face, down the side of the cheek, so it wasn't impairing his vision. So there was never any real risk that the fight would have been stopped on it. But make no mistake, if they had stopped the fight, it would have been a TKO win for Echo Usman. And Echo Usman was really coming into it in the later rounds. He was doing really well. He was putting pressure on Jack Catley. He was making him work for it. And you were thinking, right, minus the knockdown, this is kind of going, it started out Jack Catley, now it's going Echo Usman. Into round 11, Jack Catley kind of fumbles Echo Usman down to the ground. And the referee, John Latham, I mean, he should hang his head in shame for this, because he says break. Jack Catley blatantly lands a left hand, I was going to say right hand, left hand on Echo Usman. Echo Usman goes down. The referee obviously doesn't call it a knockdown, but he does barely any admonishing to Jack Catley. He should have taken 2 points off him then and there and given Echo Usman a bit of time to recover because he was hit when he was down. So what the hell, John Latham? That's really bad refereeing. Appalling, shocking stuff, pathetic refereeing by John Latham. And I don't think Echo Usman really recovered from it because Jack Catley, and even then, you could say John Latham did a pathetic job in there. He really did. Because Echo Usman was done by then. Jack Catley was able to land a couple of shots and got him up to the ropes. Referee should have jumped in there and stopped it. No, lets him take a big right hook and he ends up going through the ropes nearly unconscious. So Jack Catley gets the win. John Latham, if you're watching this, pathetic refereeing. Really pathetic. So that's what I got to say on that one. Jack Catley impressed though. He impressed. He did a good job. It was entertaining. Turki Al-Sheikh won't be complaining about him doing Mickey Mouse fighting anymore. Not after that performance. So it's going to be interesting to see what Jack Catley does here. He's a welterweight, and the fighter who's top of the bill really is a welterweight. If I was Eddie Hearn, if he couldn't get a world title fight for Conor Benn at 147, there you go. Makes sense. Perfect sense. I'd do it. I would do it. Put it on pay-per-view. Not saying it's a pay-per-view worthy fight, but they would do it. You know they would. So main event, Chris Eubank Jr, Conor Benn. This is where we talk about really more so what's next, because I did a review of this fight. It wasn't round 13. It was like a brand new fight, and it was awful, quite frankly. It was a snooze fest from start to finish, other than the 12th round. Eubank Jr, Eubank Jr basically came to the ring with 50 Cent, which was more of a flex more so than anything else. And my guessing, and it is just guessing, is that maybe instead of missing the rehydration weigh-in, which I think you should have done, instead of weighing 159 pounds, which is a pound under the 160 limit. So again, you try and not have to take any excess weight off that you have to. I wonder if he decided to save that money to pay 50 Cent for that ring walk, and then just decided, well, we'll see what happens on fight night, because man barely sweated in the ring, looked the shell of himself, slow, lethargic, punches have no snap on them, and it was just, Conor Benn was better, he was more composed, he boxed quite well, but at the end of the day, an elephant in the room here, he did precious little with a fighter who was a dead man in front of him. A 36-year-old, absolutely weight drained, lethargic, slow as molasses, completely not at the races, Chris Eubank Jr. And Conor Benn did virtually nothing with him. So again, this is me saying it like it is, right? This is my opinion. People going around saying it's amazing by Conor, it's like, well, it's not really. I mean, as I've said before, this is literally like saying, right, it'd be like saying, right, you're gonna race Mo Farah in 100 meters. Okay, you're never gonna beat, you're never gonna beat him, but I'm gonna tie his legs together with rope. So I'm going to beat him. Oh my God, you beat Mo Farah. Yeah, I did. Yeah, but like I did have a massive advantage. And then acting like all of a sudden you're better. You're not really. You just had a massive advantage over the guy. Now, if Conor Benn was to go down to 147, fight guys like Devin, Brian Norman Jr., Jack Catley, etc., that'd be more interesting to me. And if he could do a performance like that against them, I'd be very impressed because it's a more even playing field. Again, to drain a guy down and to speak very openly about it, there has to be T's and C's and this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, so therefore, I'm not going to give you any credit when you win. Because why should I? Because you've literally had everything in your favour to get the win. So why am I crediting you with this? Terence Crawford, I will sing his praises till I'm blue in the face. The man went up to fight, no disrespect to Chris Eubank Jr., he's not Canelo. Right, he's not a pound for pound level fighter. Man went up 2 weight divisions to fight the undisputed champion, a pound for pound top 5, and didn't look for any advantage. Now I am going to praise him, and he put a schooling on Canelo. I'm going to praise him way heavier than I'm going to praise Conor Benn for moving up to fight Eubank Jr., who's really a contender, really. And you put a rehydration clause in place for a non-title fight. What do you want me to say? Well done. Okay, well done, you got the win, but that's it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say it was a phenomenal performance. I'm not going to do any of that. And it's not hate, it's just fact. So, for Conor Benn, I would like to see him move down in weight. If he can get down to welterweight. He doesn't look that big. Even against someone like an Ishmael Davis, when they stood side by side, you can see that Conor Benn is naturally smaller. But the fact of the matter is, he weighed in the rehydration morning at 167 pounds. So let's say he's 170 thereabouts in the ring. Right? How difficult is it going to be after 4 years of not making a weight to go and bring your body down to that weight? It could be extremely difficult. And we've seen fighters in the past. And you have to remember as well, right? Conor Benn is pushing 30 years old. He's 29 years old. I'm not sure exactly when he's 30. But that's the kind of weight, that's the kind of time when your body would naturally outgrow the weight anyway. So he's going to try and get himself down to a weight that he hasn't made for 4 years, right? And he's put on God knows how much weight in the meantime. And he's getting older. So the last time he made that weight, the last time he made welterweight, he would have been about 24, 25. Thereabouts. He would have been about 25, right? So now he's pushing 30. It's not going to get any easier. So Conor Benn will need to see what he does. And the thing is, I'd be saying try and get down to welterweight. Try it. Because you have a chance to do something at that division. You have a chance with the likes of Mario Barros, who may be fighting Ryan, we don't know. Rowley, who I still maintain is awful, although he's maybe the lesser of two evils in comparison to Mario Barros. And then you have guys like, no disrespect, Lewis Crooker, who I thought he lost to Paddy Donovan. I really did. He got battered the first fight, DQ. I thought he was better second time, but I still thought he lost. So that's it really. So get down to there rather than go to 154, where you have the likes of Murtazaliev, Sebastian Fondora, Boots, Virgil. You've really good fighters who aren't even world champions at that weight. So 147 pounds definitely. For Eubank Jr., I don't know. He's really got to take a cold hard look in the mirror and ask, what does he want to do? He is still a name. He is a multi-millionaire. But he's 36 years old. He's not going to get any better. And the move up to 168, again, use some good fighters there. The likes of Diego Pacheco, he's not a world champion, but he's a very good fighter. Terence Crawford, Canelo is still knocking around. Hamza Sheeraz, he wouldn't beat Hamza Sheeraz, not a hope in hell. Hamza Sheeraz would stop Chris Eubank Jr. So he really needs to look and decide what does he want to do. He is going to be a dad to twins, so he needs to stop and decide, right, what is best for me moving forward and what do I need to do essentially moving forward. Because me personally, I couldn't believe how bad he was. I mean, I thought when I saw the rehydration and I saw that he made it, I was thinking, okay, he might not be 100%, but I was not expecting that. That was really, really not good. And I think that he's carrying a lot of damage from the first fight, plus everything. I think it's enough's enough. So he needs to have a real good hard look and decide basically what he wants to do next. So that's what I got to say about that. As we have a look through Ring Magazine, and my days, you'd never tell by looking at their X account that there was a fight on this weekend, wouldn't you? Because I am scrolling, and all I'm getting is Ben Eubank. This is what I wanted to talk about. So, the main in a week where the main news I thought I'd be talking about was Anthony Joshua potentially fighting Jake Paul, apparently not. Joseph Parker, who reportedly failed a VADA test for a bit of the old how you doing, he did release a statement. Now, see if I can find the statement here, actually, Joseph Parker, because, of course, he is flat out refuting it, and I'm going to read, I have the statement here, actually I'm going to read this for you here. So, it was announced that he had failed a test for the how you doing the day of the fight with Fabio Wardley, the fight in which he lost, okay? Now, Parker, or I'll just read the statement, right? So, it says here, and I quote, "I want to address today's news. Before my recent fight, I took a voluntary test and have now been informed that it returned an adverse result. This came as a real surprise to me. I did not take any prohibited substance. I do not use performance-enhancing drugs and do not support their use." I wouldn't necessarily say the how you doing is a performance enhancer, to be honest with you, but anyway. "I am cooperating fully with the process now underway, and I am confident the investigation will clear my name. Thank you to everyone who has sent messages of support. It means a great deal to me and my family. When the investigation is complete, I will speak openly and answer questions." Take note, Conor Benn. That's how you release a statement and how you don't draw attention to yourself. Now, it did come as a surprise, I'm not going to lie, because Joseph Parker is not someone you would associate necessarily as someone who would be on that substance. Although saying that, and I said it in the live watch along I did, I've known people back home who, if you met them, you'd laugh at them because they're just absolute, timid beta males, and they're mad for it. So, it's not like you can just get people and put them into one corner and say, they're all on the how you doing, and they would never take it. Nah, I mean, most people take it, to be honest. And again, I've said it before. I've seen people who are just, again, you try not to laugh at them because of how just pathetic they are, and yet they're on it every weekend. So it's not like, only a select group. A lot of people are mentioning Tyson Fury, because obviously he's been known to have, indulged into how you doing in the past. And look, we need to wait and see. They're talking about having a B sample. It's certainly one of those things that you definitely don't expect to see. He's not one of the fighters you would expect that to, you would expect that to happen to. It isn't a performance enhancer. So with that in mind, you could say, well, maybe they'll look at it a bit different. And again, Liam Cameron is an example of someone who they threw the book at. I don't mean any disrespect with this, but who the hell is Liam Cameron? And again, I don't mean that in a rude, disrespectful way. Liam Cameron at that time was a domestic, maybe area level fighter who had no backing, had no promoter. So someone like that, testing positive for a recreational drug, they're going to throw the book at you. Someone like a Joseph Parker, who more often than not is the A side, yeah, I mean, they're going to do their due process. He's going to have, scientists who can say X, Y, and Z. He's going to have people who could do this. He's not going to, moan and whine about this. So let's wait and see what happens with Joe Parker. But it was an interesting one to read, certainly. Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul finalising a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami. Sources tell Ring Magazine's Mike Coppinger. This comes after the cancellation of his fight with Gervonta Tank Davis, and I still can't quite believe that is potentially going to happen. I do know that, well, look, we knew Anthony Joshua was coming back before the end of the year. We knew that, right? So 100% we knew he was going to have a tune-up fight. It wasn't going to be against anybody good. It was going to be against either a journeyman, possibly on the Inoue card, or it was going to be, maybe sometime before that. Jake Paul, I'm not excusing it, but it makes sense. I'm seeing reports saying if it happens, they could be both making in excess of 70 million. So that's insane amounts of money. Make no mistake about it. Anthony Joshua will win this fight like that. Like, he will end it like that. It amazes me, certainly in the States, that you have people who think that Jake Paul has a sniff of a prayer in this fight. You do remember, it's 2.5 years ago, almost 3 now, since he lost to Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury, he went life and death with KSI. So that's the level we're talking about, misfits level, really. High level misfits. That's what we're talking about in terms of this. Is Jake Paul area level? Could he beat Johnny Fisher? I don't think so. Would you give Johnny Fisher a sniff of a prayer against Anthony Joshua? It'd be over in a minute. A bit like this Jake Paul fight will be. I think that Jake Paul will go in there and just decide, you know what, the first meaningful shot I feel, I'm going down and I'm laughing on my way to the bank. And I think it will go a long way to actually improving Anthony Joshua in America because, again, for some reason, he's viewed a lot. Well, at one stage in the UK, Joshua was viewed as just, almost godlike. After the loss the Ruiz loss really affected him. It really affected him because it's because of the way Andy Ruiz looks. A lot of people look at Anthony Joshua, they see this big chiseled bodybuilder, and then they see Andy Ruiz, the guy looks like the kid out of Up, in real life. And they see that and they think, oh, you got beat by a fat guy. Not knowing that Andy Ruiz could go into any gym and, beat the living crap out of every man in there, just a regular gym. They just don't get that. So I think that image, whereas someone like a Tyson Fury losing to Usyk, beating Deontay Wilder and building Deontay Wilder up as this, and look, Wilder was a tremendous puncher. We know that the highlight reel knockouts, I think showing people the highlight reel knockouts of Deontay Wilder, knocking out Stavern, Ortiz, etc., everyone, for Fury to go in there and beat him, that elevated Fury, whereas losing to Ruiz, even though he was able to get the win back, he was able to fight Usyk and stuff like that, it damaged his reputation in the UK and certainly the US. So that might help AJ a little bit in the US, probably won't do anything for him in the UK. Hopefully, if he does fight Jake Paul, it will culminate in a fight with Tyson Fury next year. I think that's what we all want. It's the only fight I really see conceivable for both guys, to be honest with you. I really don't see what direction either guy can go in. I really don't. What else is there? There's not much else in terms of boxing news. So we'll do a quick preview before we finish up of next Saturday's show. We'll be doing a live watch along either here or on Ade's channel, one or the other. We're still waiting just for confirmation on that, but I think it's looking pretty damn good, so let's wait and see. People, I look at this card next week and I just think phenomenal. Sam Noakes, Abdullah Mason, that's going to start the show. I'm a Sam Noakes fan, I'm not going to lie. I'd love to see him do it, but I don't think he will. I think Abdullah Mason is tremendously talented, but Sam Noakes is a very, very good fighter in his own right. Jesse Bam Rodriguez, Fernando Martinez, that's going to be epic. Jesse Bam Rodriguez is an absolute man. I wish he had more charisma, because he just doesn't. And he's just a very quiet, he's kind of geeky in a way. A geek will absolutely take your head clean off, but he's just a quiet guy. I think that's hurting him because he has so much star power, it's not even funny. Brian Norman Jr., Devin Haney, Brian Norman coming off the back of that devastating knockout win over in Japan. Devin Haney coming off the back of that devastatingly boring fight he had against over Jose Ramirez, I think it was, which was absolutely god-awful. It made Jack Cattrall performances look good in comparison, or entertaining in comparison. That's how bad it was. So hopefully he doesn't do another fight like that. And it's going to be interesting to see. This is his first fight at welterweight. He's not playing around, but he looks shook still. He looks still like he's dealing with the demons of that Ryan Garcia defeat. Yeah, they've turned it into a no contest. He still got dropped 3 times. The damage of that defeat, you can't just slap it as a no contest and then the damage is gone. It's still there. So that's going to be a great fight. And then obviously Benavidez Yard in the main event. That's going to be fun. I think Dave Benavidez is going to beat the living crap out of Anthony Yard. I really do believe that. But Anthony Yard, whenever he's had to step up to world level, he's always given a good account of himself. But I think this is going to be different. The one thing you would say is that with Benavidez, his last fight was against David Morrell. 2 guys coming from 168. Prior to that, it was Vodcek. He'd retired after his fight with Beterbiev, past his best. So this is in prime, sort of, maybe not quite his prime, Anthony Yard, but it's a different style altogether. For Yard, this is the first time he's going in as the veteran, because he's about 5 years older than Dave Benavidez. Benavidez has a great run of form. They both have 30 fights in their respective careers, but Anthony Yard's best win is Lyndon Arthur. I mean, Dave Benavidez, Dave Morrell, Vodcek, Andre, Plant, Lemieux. It's a much better resume you can't compare it to. I mean, literally, you have Anthony Yard, nobody, Lyndon Arthur, and losses at world level. That's it. So it's literally nobody, Lyndon Arthur, lost at world level. That's it. So, yeah, that is next week's card. I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's not been a crazy week in terms of boxing news. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. I hope you all have a great week. I hope you like the new setup. I moved everything into the living room, so hopefully we get some stuff for the wall here. I like it in here. It's actually quite nice in. Well, I like this living room anyway. But it's quite nice. I got a lot of space in here, so it was about time I moved the stuff in here. So let me know what you guys think. Hope you have a great week. Everything goes well. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, people.